So hi everyone, I'm Purvi and I'll be talking about something called as Intercept, Inject, Innovate. Uh, Basically today's talk is on how we can intercept APIs of mobile app, that is a native mobile app, and then use the logs to analyze, basically use AI to analyze the logs and then give a precise report or a summary to the stakeholders on what is happening in the backend. Okay, something briefly about me and the overview. So, first thing I'll be talking about is how and why we want to intercept the APIs. And the next thing is the problem that we were facing. We wanted to automate the entire UI of our mobile app, which is a native mobile app. And while doing so, we wanted to check all the UIs possible based on the response from the backend that we are getting. All right. So first thing, let's consider a mobile application and a native mobile application. So we know that the UI of the mobile app, it changes based on the response it receives from the backend, right? So if we are getting a particular response, the UI shown will be different. And so it changes that way. But what if I want to test all these UIs that we get from all the response variations and do these tests in an automated way instead of going and changing the response again and again? I want to do it in an automated way. So how to achieve this? So this is like there are three things to it. The response from the backend, it will change first depending on the input that we give to the backend. So whatever input that we give to the API, it will process it and it will get the response depending on the various inputs that we give. Second is the internal state of the application. Okay, so if the application is in a certain state and again these parameters are sent to the backend and then we receive a different response, the UI will change accordingly. And now the third thing or the problem that we are facing, how to automate or get a full test coverage of all these UIs based on different response variation. Okay, so the next thing, the backend that we are talking about is normally not built in a way explicitly that it sends us uh, the response that we want whenever we want to. So there were three main solutions to this. One is create data. Create all the data possible to get all the responses. Okay, but there is a problem again that we run into, that is the data, it will get outdated. So once I use a data, maybe the user data is one time use, so again I have to create data. So what we are looking at, data creation loop again and again. And for our app, we depended on a third party for data creation. So we had to like literally ask for the third party to, can you, like, can you please provide us data for so and so, and wait, there was wait time, and then we used to get the data. This was one of the problem. Second problem is, second solution to the problem that we are looking at is, we tell the backend, we pair with a backend person and tell them, send us the response that we want while we are testing. Not at all possible, right? It's impractical. And the third thing that we can do is use a proxy tool but manually intercept it. Go to the proxy, we have the rules intact, but we put it on and put it off manually. But again, if we do something like this, then automation or automating the UI, which depends on dynamic backend response, is not possible without manual interception. Okay. So the ideal solution for it was intercept the APIs programmatically in a way that I can or we can uh, simulate the mock response during the test script and then get the ideal UI that we are looking at and test it. Okay, so what if through the, as you're running your test script, you intercept the APIs in a programmatic manner. So I'm not doing anything. It will start a proxy, stop a proxy, and in between inject whatever mock response that you want or mock response codes that you want and give you the UI that you want to test. And that is anyway, we are automating it using our UI test tools. Okay. So that was the ideal solution. There were tools tried. So these were the tools which were tried for API interception programmatically, and all of these actually failed for one reason or the other. So I will walk through the ones, each one of them. Currently, I'll just give you a brief overview of our test suite. We are automating Tesco mobile application. It is a native mobile application, and we are using WebDriver IO, APM, and TypeScript for automating it. So I needed a tool that would integrate with our automation suite, which was already present, and give us a solution to the problem that we are facing right now, that is testing all the UIs based on the response, different response. And for us, the API responses are huge because there are different types of users for Tesco Mobile, right? So the first one was APM Interceptor plugin, and APM Interceptor plugin, it's seamlessly integrated with our UI suite because we were using APM as a test server. But what happened was it started conflicting with the test server being a proxy server, and it was quite new, and there was no support that was offered for it. So moved on to MITM proxy, which was really good as a web application API interception tool. But to intercept a native application, mobile native application, we had to write some Python scripts. Our stack was a JavaScript stack, and the integration required quite some setup. So it was not actually meant for a native mobile app integration. The third one was WebDriver IO's intercept request, which could not be used for native mobile apps. And the last one, that is mock service worker, it required a very minute and detailed setup of routing networks. So that is the reason we did not go for mock service worker as well. So which tool, so this is a brief overview of why we did not choose APM interceptor, MITM proxy, WebDriver IO's intercept request, or the mock service worker. The mock service worker also required a routing worker kind of setup, which was expensive in time, in terms of time that we were going to spend on it, and it was complex as well. So the tool that won, or the tool that was the best fit for our case, was AnyProxy. So why AnyProxy? Because first of all, it worked with other native apps. It integrated with native apps seamlessly. It was scriptable in JavaScript as well as TypeScript, and hence it could be used very easily with WebDriver IO, which we were already using. The setup for it was minimal. I had to just use, it is a plugin, okay, in WebStorm. So I had to just use the plugin and then set up the proxy in the device that I'm using, the mobile device or simulator in that case. And once that is done, the proxy ran fine. It is a bi-directional, yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So, yes. So also it was bi-directional. That means I could inject or modify both the request that is sent to the API and also the response that we get from it, response codes. And that is the reason even the UI that we were getting was we could automate it based on the responses that we were injecting. And the last thing is it gave us very well defined logs. So we could generate clean logs of all the APIs that were intercepted by APM by any proxy. Okay, so this is a very important point that hi that we were using any proxy and it was giving us logs, clean logs of all the APIs that were intercepted. Okay, so any proxy could simulate something like 401 expired password, 500 internal server error. It could inject artificial delay and custom. It could inject a custom body and generate the logs that we wanted to generate. Okay, so when we had the logs ready and we were intercepting APIs, we were automating it. So it crossed my mind, why not step it up, use these logs to analyze the raw data that we already have, and most of the people go and read it on their own, give it to AI and let it summarize it for us and for the stakeholders, and tell us what is going on in the back end, right? And if there are any anomalies, also tell us about that. So I'm using AI for analyzing the logs that we get by intercepting the APIs. And AI tells us if there are any error codes, if there are any anomalies that are there in the APIs. It also tells us what my API is doing, whether it has run more than once, if there are any successes, failures, and even it tells me if there are some misbehaving flows. So overall, it tells me that there is a latency, there is a success, there is a failure, there has been repeating APIs being called, why it is being called, and why it is happening that way. So this is what AI does in the integration that is done right now. Okay. So what all models we have tried? The Google Gemini and OpenAI, we tried it first. So what happened was Google Gemini was giving different types of outputs which were not very stable, and both had rate limits. So after a certain, the free version of it, after certain API calls, it was giving a rate limit, and you had to wait for certain amount of time before you could go ahead and then again run your script. That was one. So what I decided was, let's use GPT for all, that is like open source, local, remotely running model for analyzing the logs. And the first model that was used, that was the Llama 2 7B, it was it used to get stuck. So for huge logs, even if I had to chunk it, the I had to chunk it in a very very small size so that it could process these logs. So instead of that, I used something called as Mistral 7B. It was fast, lightweight, it was very accurate, it gave good results and took the feedback very well, and the summary that it generated was very nice. And I think any stakeholder, it was in natural language, so the English language that we speak. So any stakeholder could just go through these logs or the summary, and they would also know what was happening in the backend. So that is the reason we used Mistral 7B. It does not require internet, it is run offline. Okay, so the stack summary. For the proxy, I'm using any proxy. For testing the UI, it is WebDriver IO, APM, and JavaScript. For log analysis, it is using GPT for all, Llama CPP. And for model, the model used is Mistral 7B. Version of it is right in front of it. So what it overall flow is such that UI testing is done. During the UI testing, it will start and stop the proxy, which any proxy, which in turn intercepts the API. It injects whatever um, request I want to inject, gets the response, takes this response, and then creates a log out of it. These logs are then fed to a JavaScript script which chunks it into smaller uh, pieces of text, feeds it to a Python script, and Python script in turn prompts the local model, LLM model, which is loaded by Python script as well. And then the raw output of this model is again analyzed, and a natural language uh, summary of all these um, raw data is given to the stakeholders. So this is the overall flow that is happening right now. So why not? Right now I'm using it for my mobile testing. It has a huge value if we use it for normal prod logs as well. And overall it is offline, right? It is not online, and it hence has the security also that we have all the data to ourselves only. So if you feed them with the prod logs, it will tell you again and again what is happening. For each sanity suit that you run in the CI pipeline, it will tell you what has happened and is it the UI that is failing or whether the backend is failing. Okay. So this is the proxy.ts, the TypeScript file. So what it basically does is it intercepts the API based on the key that we give it to it. So for example, right now if you see this line, on this line it sees whether the URL includes the following words. So you can use a regular expression instead of this, and if that is so, then it is giving it a mock body. So this is the body. Right now it is hard coded. We can also use a JSON and then consume the JSON and use it in the body directly. So this is what it is doing. Also, based on what type of logs you want to log it in the log file, you can give again a regular expression, and based on that you can create logs for yourself. Right now I'm only logging the ones which I'm intercepting, because analysis otherwise will take time, right? So that is the reason I'm using only few of the APIs for log generation. So the test script, that is the UI script, I will be running that. It will basically just start the proxy, and it will start proxy, stop proxy. And once that is done, the UI test will run automatically. And this UI test is to test if the password entered is expired. If it is expired, then what UI is being shown to the user. Okay. What I'll be doing is, I'll be actually first doing it without the proxy. I'm using the same number. This is the mobile application. I'm logging into it first. This is using the MPN, or the mobile number that is present. This is skipping the notification. The actual part starts here, where I go to the settings and I want to change my password. And I'm entering a correct password. At this point, it lets me go ahead and change my password. But once I use the proxy setting, that is to set my proxy, I need to get the IP address. And the proxy runs on 8001 port. Okay, that's it. I'll uninstall the application so that it gets installed via the automation. And I'll run the automation code. So what this will do is it will install the application, whatever I have done manually, it will do the exact same thing right now. It has installed the application here. It is logging in with the same number that I had logged in just now. Doing the same thing, it will skip this, go to the account, settings, scroll down to change password, enter the same username and the correct password. But now what is happening is it will show me the expired password screen because my proxy is running it in the background. So it has intercepted this API and it has injected the body that I wanted to. All right. I'll switch to, I've purposely kept this page open instead of closing it so that we know that we are on the expired password page. Next, what I'm doing is it has run my automation script successfully. This will be done in a pipeline whenever we are actually doing it. Next, what I'm doing is, if you see here, the logs have been generated. Now I'm calling this analyze API logs script. Okay, this will split the logs into smaller chunks, feed it to the Python script, which will in turn load the model for us and analyze it and give us the output. I hope it doesn't take a lot of time. So for each chunk that is it analyzes, it will just tell you that it is analyzing the chunk. And once it does the analysis, it will give you the, it will paste or print it to the console right now. We can print it in a file, and also the next steps for it are we can integrate it with Slack and send the reports to the stakeholders directly for each run that we do. So as it is analyzing the chunks, it takes a little bit of time for this. And what did we, here it is. So it tells you that the logs show that there are 4 API requests made. Okay, it tells you which API is being called with different timestamps and method. It tells you the status code of it. It also tells you each field that is there. It attempts to authenticate the user using a temporary password but fails due to an expired temporary password error. The status code of it is told. Here I am injecting it, but if at all this indicates that there may be some issue with authentication. It tells you exactly what is happening. And this is based on my request injection. Also, we can have a prompt again in natural language. If you see this, I can tell the model to analyze the request and separate it out from the mock that I am sending. Okay. So the final thoughts on this is, by programmatically intercepting the APIs, what have we achieved? First thing, there are no backend dependencies. Also, we have achieved end-to-end automation and AI-powered insights. So we are basically using the raw log data which normally we would have read, and instead of that, we are transforming it into some actionable items. We are asking the AI to give us some actions that we can do on the APIs that have been run. Okay, and altogether we have achieved end-to-end true automation through this. So this is like a full end-to-end scenario that is being run. Also, the API is being intercepted, UI that we want to test are being tested, and we are using AI for analyzing the overall data and giving us insights into what is happening.
Thank you.